Hello, I'm Andy Richards. I'm the channel director of KMTV and I was also the executive producer for the general election special programme that we did this year. So as journalists, we get extremely excited about general elections, probably far more excited than the general public. That can be reflected in the turnout, usually is quite low, and it was quite low this year. The way I describe it to most people, it's like the World Cup or the Euros for journalists.
I'm Rob Bailey, I'm head of the Centre for Journalism at the University of Kent, and on election night I was the presenter for the outside broadcast at Medway. I mean, obviously there'd been frantic speculation and we'd all been playing guessing games around the newsroom about when it might be. So of course when that famous moment, he steps out, gets rained upon, and this kind of really abject kind of statement on the steps of Downing Street that he was going to call the election, I think all of us were just completely stunned.
And we will have a general election on the 4th of July.
And Kent's very much on the front line of lots of political things in our country. Brexit's an obvious one with our geography being close to Europe, as well as Dover is obviously a key place with migrants travelling over the English Channel to our shores.
The whole country's gone through this really extraordinary 5 years. We've seen an awful lot of families that wouldn't have been struggling a few years ago really starting to feel the pinch, the price of energy, the cost of childcare, these issues really changing people's lives quite profoundly. And I think certainly as we emerged from COVID, a brief sense that maybe things would get better and then the dawning reality that they weren't, that had become really the defining story in Kent.
We'd had an idea that we were going to do a programme because we'd done it before in 2019.
And we have reporters at all 17 constituencies to bring you the results.
My name is Matt Ramsden. I'm the senior editor for North and West Kent for the Kent Messenger Group. The KM Group is made up of different strands as a business. We had various meetings with all the key players involved, and we came up with a rough plan of what we would do on the night. All the reporters were assigned different counts, so we were at every count in Kent, 18 of them. So we had more than 50 journalists. 12
hours of coverage, and probably if we're completely honest, we weren't as far along in that planning as we needed to be at the point when Rishi Sunak said, it's happening, it's 6 weeks away.
Day one, Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour Party turned up to Gillingham Football Club to launch the entire campaign from here.
Kent is very important to us. It's very important to me. I grew up on the Surrey-Kent border. I know this area very well.
You know, that was an indicator of what was to come. We were right at the front there. We had two reporters. Rishi Sunak chose not to come to Kent, but we did get a cabinet visit from James Cleverly, the former Home Secretary. We had two opportunities to speak to him.
A place for family, friends and the community to remember a 7-year-old boy who died after a hit and run in Sandgate. A place while on the election trail, Home Secretary James Cleverly paid a visit to.
I'm here to have a quiet conversation with Will, away from your cameras and microphones, and then we'll go out campaigning, do the political stuff elsewhere.
My name's Bartholomew. I was largely in the engine room during the election night, so in the gallery. I think we did such a great job. I think we were quite lucky in that Kent became such a heated point for the election. I remember there was one day where we were sitting in the gallery getting a live feed from the Liberal Democrat leader, Ed Davey, as he was visiting. We were sitting there in the gallery watching this leader take part in an assault course.
Liberal Democrats have got a pretty good record here in Kent, not amazing. They'd never held a seat before, but Tunbridge Wells was really in play for them. Our reporter Ollie, he certainly was front and centre.
How is your party going to strike the balance between recreation and conservation? It's a really important balance to strike, and the way you do it is you work with the local community.
A year into the job, and within 3 weeks of the campaign, he had interviewed Keir Starmer, Ed Davey and James Cleverly, and he just would not have had that opportunity anywhere else.
My name's Abby Hook, I'm KMTV's news editor, and a lot of my role in the build-up to the election was making sure that we were covering loads of different stories from across Kent on Kent Tonight.
England scraped through, but are Kent fans still backing them to lift the trophy? Maidstone murder investigation, Swanscombe residents fearing for the worst. Lights, camera, action. KMTV prepares for largest ever local general election coverage.
And I'm always incredibly proud of the team of journalists and young reporters we have. We're all so new to be able to be up there with the likes of the big broadcasters It's a privilege, it's hard work, but I think we delivered it exceptionally.
How ready do you feel
How ready do I feel?
with it being next week?
Reasonable. We've got 10, 11 different locations to be at, and we're asking all these students and these apprentices to come and help. Well, I haven't got kit to give them at the moment.
For me, the big story of the election was what happened with reform, because reform definitely swayed the vote. I think if you were to talk to quite a few former Tory members of Parliament, they would have said if reform hadn't been a factor, they probably would have kept their seats.
Maidstone has been under Conservative control since 2010 under Helen Grant. And people here, the packed out crowd who are applauding Nigel Farage's feisty speech, seem to be former Conservative voters.
Yeah, you know, it was cool. I interviewed, actually I did interview Nigel Farage. He ran off before I could ask him what his favourite milkshake was. But no, it's a big reform event when Maidstone is kind of polling towards reform. They're in second place.
So I've just finished on the box.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks, Ollie. Understanding our audience, and understanding that the reason why people are tuning into us is they want to know what's going on in Kent. We've got about 40 guests booked, ready. We won't be able to test until we get to the day. When the counts start coming in, all hell will break loose.
How do I feel it's next week? A mixture of excitement, surprise, anxiety, nervousness.
It's exciting, isn't it? Exciting.
So excited. I actually really am. It's going to be really fun.
You just got to be able to adapt on the go. Nevertheless, even though we can plan to the T, it's all about adjusting on the day.
Might do bed sheets. Well, this is the Kent Politics Show set. Next time this is up, it will be in Medway, ready for the big day.
Good evening and welcome to the Kent Politics Show special General Election 2024 live.
We did things on the night which will stay with me forever, I think. Cameron Tucker, who was there with me, was one of the reporters, running from the car park into the main sports hall at Medway Park where the counting was going to take place.
There's going to be 3
It was a real buzz. It was a real buzz, and I think the team thought I was slightly mad when I suggested it.
Interesting stories that could possibly unravel.
But it worked really nicely. It was definitely a real highlight for me.
To our studio where Rob Bailey is waiting in place with our first guest for the evening. And Rob, it's over to you. I'm slightly out of breath, so take it away.
Thank you, Cameron, and welcome to the pop-up studio here in Medway Park.
Yes, some results were a bit ropey with feeds dropping out and things like that.
Hi, yes, I'm Anise Bannett.
Apologies for just a few little connection issues. Audio is not wonderful, so I'll be narrating a little bit. We'll try and pick up the results.
We just about got every result out in some shape or form.
McKenna has won Sittingbourne and Sheppey.
My name is Ellie Hodgson. I'm one of the multimedia reporters at Kent Online and Kent Messenger, and on the election night I had the role of covering Tunbridge Wells election count at their sports centre. Oh no, it was stressful. I didn't manage to go live. Me sitting there with my chair and my laptop on my lap, and there was no Wi-Fi. So that sort of set the tone of the evening in a way of what sort of difficulties I might encounter. I made a quick split decision to film them instead, and I'm glad I did capture that, because after Mike Martin didn't want to do an interview, all of us were aghast. We couldn't believe it. It was such a sort of landslide win, and it was historic. It was the first time a Liberal Democrat had ever won a seat in Kent. And you don't want to tell everybody about how amazing that is. And I remember listening to his speech, and it was just so mundane, and it almost zapped all of the energy out of the room. I remember looking at the other reporters, and he was saying, we're at the end of a political earthquake.
We are standing in the aftermath of a political earthquake.
You've got to take risks in live telly, and I think this one came off in general.
And you spoke about change there, Lauren. Sorry, Cameron from KMTV.
And we're going straight to Tunbridge because another result is coming in.
It was a lot of caffeine to stay awake. I think the later it got on, the more we realised that this is going to be a long night, and it was good. We loved it. I think all of us were so just engaged with what we were doing.
Feeling a multitude of feelings. All of them are some sort of variation of tiredness.
It was this constant desire to do this TV, to make it as good as we could, to have the guests on, to utilise our graphics, to cut between the studios, to finally piece together this thing that we had been working on for so many weeks, and with such limited resource as well. When you think about it, when you compare it to the other broadcasters, we're a small team. But I think it's so crucial to highlight that there is something to say for journalism still at a local level. And covering the general election in a hyper-local way, I think it builds a level of trust that you wouldn't get anywhere else.
We tell just as many good stories as we do distressing ones, but that's local telly. You know, we could be doing a general election one night, a story about a tortoise that's been found, and then we could be doing a murder investigation. So it's important for people to understand that it can't be free, that if we didn't do it, who would? People should be encouraged by the quality of young journalists who are still, for some reason, wanting to do that as their career. I hope people can recognise that it is an important part of our society, and the information that we deliver to them is vital.
And people do care.
And people do care.